All right, welcome everyone to another exciting episode of Elevate Your Equity. We are so excited you're here. I'm your host, Derek Clifford.
And I'm your co-host, Sophie Lauren Clifford.
Yes, absolutely. And tonight we have a special treat. We have Mauricio and Princess Roque on the call. And this is an absolute power couple. I had a fantastic time talking with them, and we took away a lot of information about how a couple has so much stuff going on. They've got kids at home. They've both got full-time jobs. They've been grinding at this for about a year and a half now, trying to find their first apartment building. And just now they're under contract with a 41 unit in the Midwest. And it looks like they have a complete runway to just take off with. So we're super excited. What did you think about the interview?
I loved how they got really honest about their internal resistances from the very beginning and their mental ahas and how they got through those limiting beliefs that we all have, the not enough time, the not enough money, the not enough resources, the not enough knowledge, or it's not the right time, especially with it being COVID, right? So just the gems that they were able to share with how they got past all of those resistances, took action, and now on their way to closing a 41 unit apartment complex. And within a span of a year, I mean, just amazing work that they've done. And it was a real pleasure to be able to sit down and talk with them.
Yeah, it was such an inspiration. And we are so excited for you guys to be able to learn from them directly. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring them on. All right. And we have Mauricio and Princess on the call. How are you guys today?
Good. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Yeah, it's such an honor to have you guys on. Thank you so much for being here with us. And
it's our pleasure.
The first thing that we want to talk about right here is obviously it's Christmas right now. And for those of you that are listening to this on the audio version, you're missing out on quite an amazing visual sight right now. Maybe Mauricio and Princess, you guys can fill us in on what some of our listeners are missing out on.
Well, I am wearing my famous cat sweater, my ugly Christmas sweater. And we have our Christmas tree in the back. We figure this is Christmas week. So we feel festive. We're happy. We have a lot of reasons to be happy. And we just wanted to portray that.
That's amazing. All right.
I actually have a little Santa like somewhere here.
Somewhere in the back, but I don't think you can see him.
So cool. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump in, all jokes aside. So the first place that we usually like to begin is, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world right now, what's happening right now in this moment, and then tell us a little bit about who you guys are and where you guys came from and how you got excited in investing in real estate.
Yeah, well, as far as where we're now, today is a very special day for us because today we hit a milestone, something that we were very nervous about at first, but now everything is moving pretty fast. So we have 41 units under contract in the Midwest. This is something that we worked very, very hard. And today our deposit went non-refundable. So today was the end of our due diligence. So at this point, for those familiar, there's really no turning back. And it's something that we felt very nervous about, but we actually feel very good. We've done a lot of numbers and we're very happy where we're at.
Yeah, it's actually one of those properties that you're not nervous about getting your deposit not coming back. We had underwritten and very conservative. We had done our research on the market as well. We have our boots on the ground. And so we feel pretty confident on this property. And he said there's no turning back. So we can't really say to the seller, like, hey, where's our money back? So, but that's good.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, you guys. That is a huge step and very impressive, because I know exactly how hard you guys have been working. So why don't we just go ahead and start jumping into it? I think let's hear a little bit more about your guys' background, and then we can jump into that specific property a little bit later on and get into the details. So why don't you guys back up a little bit and bring us back to the point in time where you were before you bought the property. What kind of preparation have you done? How long have you guys been in commercial real estate? And just give us a general background on your guys' real estate investing careers.
All right. How long have we been in this?
I think it's about a year, more than a year.
Yeah, we actually started looking into this a while back, a couple of years back, and we just wanted to spend more time together. We worked crazy jobs. My wife worked Monday to Friday, a very stressful job. And I work as a real estate agent on weekends. So we didn't really have too much time to spend together. And we knew that we wanted some type of residual income. We just didn't know how. And we got involved in multifamily, or we learned about it through a conference that I attended in March of 2019. And at the time, when I came back from that conference, I told my wife all about it. I was excited. I called her when I was there. I kept texting her and sending her pictures, and you wouldn't believe it. I think I found a way for us to spend more time together, and came back, and it's been a long journey for us. We never thought that we would spend, that it would take this long, but it's been definitely worth it.
Yeah. So he came back, like he said, he was pretty excited. He mentioned to me about all this wonderful stuff that I wasn't even aware of. I never thought that that kind of industry is existing. So all I know about real estate is like, okay, residential, he goes to open houses, he sell houses, he helped to buy houses, but I've never thought of a multifamily industry out there. So when he mentioned to me, I was like, oh, okay, that's very interesting, but I really don't know what is that all about. So that's when we started looking into the podcast, listening to it, just getting ourselves more educated about it. And that's when we understand more about how this goes. So from then on, that's when my husband asked me about, hey, do you want to go to this conference? Like, oh, okay, like, cool. You know, that was back in June or July, I think.
July of
and
last
then
year.
So he went to March, and then just 2 months ago, he convinced me to go on this real estate.
I bribed her.
Yeah, like really, like okay, like what am I supposed to say, or what am I supposed to do? You know, when I'm there, how am I gonna talk to people? How am I gonna present myself? So never really had any idea about it, and that's when we were there. It's just my mind was blown. It was like a treasure that I found out that is hiding somewhere. You know, it's kind of like that.
In fact, we were joking before we started with you guys, because I remember her exact words. We were at the conference and we were listening to a talk from Robert Helms about the difference between assets and liabilities. And my wife, in the middle of that talk, turned around, she looked at me, and I'm just going to use different names. I had a client, let's just say Michelle and Kenneth. And she looked at me and she said, okay, baby, after Michelle and Kenneth, we're going to concentrate 100% on this, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how we got started on educating ourselves.
That's great. What were some of the key things that initially stood out to you that made you have that aha moment of like, wow, this is it for us?
For us, I think because starting from March, and then we kind of started listening to podcasts, because I'm more of like an analytical person. So the numbers make sense for me. If you are doing this, multiply it by this number. So for me, it didn't really make that hard for me to understand the numbers. But then when we went there and listened to these people doing this stuff, that's when we kind of like, okay, that's like our aha moment that we want to do this. It's not for ourselves, but also for our family in the future. So when we got there and listened to all these people, that's when we realized, okay, we want to sign up for this. We wanted a coach, even though we're not really prepared for a lot of stuff, but we want to do this. We want to jump onto this.
Yeah, it just made sense. And I think at the time when we started listening to a lot of podcasts and interview, one of the challenges that we had is that it was usually just one person. So like what you guys are doing now, it didn't exist before. We never listened to a couple working together. The question was, can we do this together? You know, my wife is an engineer, so she's extremely good with numbers. I'm in sales, so I knew that we had all the ability to do it. We just hadn't met anyone doing it, either in person or through podcast. But like she said, like my wife said, when we got there and we met several people from completely different backgrounds, had already purchased the first property or second, it was just very encouraging to us.
Wow, that's so wonderful. Thank you, you guys. Yeah, it's interesting because when you listen to these podcasts and it's just one individual person and they're talking about the numbers, the transactions, but what we often don't realize too is that the journey behind it, there's a spouse there, or there's a partner, or there's a family, or there's a whole journey that's so rich. And it's really important to be able to kind of delve into that as well. So so I think what you guys are doing together is so beautiful. And I'm curious too, when you're having conversations about, okay, this is, I mean, it sounds like it's a big change in your life path,
Oh,
right?
It
yes.
is.
And I'm wondering
Oh,
what kind
yes.
of
It is.
conversations had to take place again for our listeners who are just like, okay, if we're gonna, we're gonna do this together, we have to have some tough conversations, right?
Yeah.
What kind of advice, or maybe sharing some things that you guys did?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we did, we had talked about doing before, but we never really did, is one day we sat down, I think we were having a glass of wine, and we started thinking, okay, what do we want? What kind of life do we want? What are the things that we want? And we wrote it down.
Yeah.
And we started writing down, and it was interesting because I learned, like, for example, the purse that she wanted, and I had no idea. And she learned stuff that I wanted that I hadn't expressed. So we learned a little bit more about each other, and we realized, okay, we can get to this point. But that was one of the first things that we did, is just sitting down, writing everything, and then committing to learning more, committing to listening to at least, I think we're doing at least 1 or 2 podcasts a week or something like that. I had to bribe her, of course. I had to get her sushi or Korean barbecue.
That was my next question, was what was the bribe? Because I know there's plenty of spouses out there listening in on that, because that's something that can get taken care
It's
of.
always
Yeah.
food, right?
I know.
Yeah, it was actually 2 different things. So before we attended the event in July, we agreed that we needed to take a little vacation. And my wife kept telling me, why are we going now in May? Why don't we were going to Hawaii. Why don't we go in the summer? And I told her, look, after you see that information, we won't do anything. We're not going to stop until we become successful, until we succeed in our first property. So that was the first thing. We committed to going to Hawaii. We're going to have fun. We're going to party, swim, snorkel, do everything. And as soon as we come back, it's work mode. And the other one was, of course, food. Korean barbecue, boiling crab, sushi, you name it.
You name it. You name the Asian stores, the Asian restaurants. But yeah, just to add on that, I think what we've also, it's very important for, for business partners, husband and wives, that you have to align your goal with each other. Because if you have 2 different goals, you can't really go in one direction. And it's very hard for us, because the way I was expressing, or the way I am expressing myself towards a coworker in my business profile is very different when it comes to talking to him as my husband and as a business partner, because you kind of, when you are talking to a coworker in your business profile, you don't have to know them in a personal way. You can talk to them, how much you want, or however you want it, without even like really thinking what's going behind their head. But on a personal level, talking to your husband in a professional way, it takes it takes a complicated, it gives you an extra thinking that, okay, how am I gonna approach this to him? How am I gonna say this to him? How am I gonna think of it that he wouldn't think of the other way around?
Yeah.
So it's it took me a little while to know him as well, in a professional and on his profession, because he's a sales guy. He's a real estate. So he's more of like a people person. Unlike me, I'm not really like that people person. I talk to, as an engineer, I talk to people, but we want results. For him, it's like more of a relational thing. So that's something that I could add on.
Yeah, and there's no clocking out at 5 p.m.
Yeah, like
it just continues.
Yeah, that's true, because in a business profile, you can tell them like, okay, 5 o'clock, it's the end. But for him, when you are business partners, especially at a home setting, there's no ending time. You can be talking about it like until 12 midnight, until 1 a.m.
Yeah.
But, and then in the morning, you can be like knocking on his door, like waking him up. Hey, what's the status of this one?
Yeah.
So,
Of course.
Yeah, that's so, yeah. So it sounds like there had to be a lot of maybe compromises or negotiations too within the marriage. And I'm curious too, like how your journey so far in real estate, how has it either like strengthened or transformed your relationship on a personal level?
I would say strengthen it. Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
definitely.
does.
Because we celebrate success together and failure as well. This is a very difficult business. I mean, I've traveled a lot. I've talked, I don't know how many hundreds of hours spent behind a computer. And there's been times that we've probably submitted 15 offers over the past year. So we don't get it. It's not the best feeling. And we both feel the same way. So we just have to keep encouraging each other. And I think that the encouragement, I think is what's helped us a lot because,
Yeah.
hey, it wasn't meant for us. We'll do the next one. Let's
Yeah.
go after the next one. What can we do different? And that's where she comes in, because then she lays everything out in a plan. Okay, this is what we could do different. And it works a lot. At first, it was different for me because I run my residential business just how I was trained. But now I have to adapt, and I realize that everything that she's laying out is very organized, far more than I've ever been. So it really has helped us a lot.
Wow. Now let's take a step back here as well, because I want to go into that a little bit more detail. And maybe for our listeners, let's say oftentimes there's a dynamic with a couple where you have one person who's interested in investing or has some experience investing. And then there's another person in the relationship who maybe they see it at a distance and they understand what's going on, but they're too intimidated or too afraid to get into it. Or there's a personality difference, kind of like what you guys mentioned, right? Like one person is very analytical and rational and numerical thinking, and the other person is more open-minded and relationship oriented, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys combine that at the very beginning to be able to tackle this monumental idea that you guys came across of what is commercial real estate investing? How do you guys navigate those waters, knowing those personality differences inside the relationship to succeed in business clearly to where you are right now?
I think we knew since the beginning what our roles would be, because this multifamily business, for example, it's two sides. One is the negotiation. One is, of course, finding the deal, all that stuff. And the other side is what goes behind, which is all the numbers. So I think we knew since the beginning what our roles would be, right?
Yeah, I think you as a business partner should identify what are your strengths and what is your weaknesses.
Yeah, because I know that when I attended those events and when I talk to other people, I know there's a lot of folks out there that get nervous when they talk to brokers. And I talk to real estate agents all the time, affiliates, insurance, inspectors, you name it. So to me, it's second nature. So we knew that was going to be my strength. And of course, as far as numbers goes, we knew that there was no one better than her to handle it.
Yeah. And also, like when I was in the beginning of the journey, like you said, Derek, you never really know what's in it. There's that other person that not on the bird's eye view, but never really gone through really deep on it. So for me, I was just like, okay, just going with the flow in the beginning, like, okay, because he was a people person. So he would tell me like, okay, you have to say this, you have to say that. Don't say this, don't say that. So he was the one who supported me when it comes to dealing with people. And because I was intimidated of like talking to other people, it wasn't my nature. I was just like on my 9-to-5 job, I was just like behind the computer and just submitting reports. I never really like talked to people, like asking them, and hey, how do you do? I'm not like that person.
Yeah, and the same thing for me, because we were going through stuff and she would tell me, baby, write it down. And I said, oh no, I have it here. Don't worry, I'll write it later. No, write it down now. You'll forget. I think it really helped and strengthened both of us. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that I've met that they haven't found a way to talk to their spouses. And because I've been asked that a lot, I've been told even by good friends of mine, hey, you're really lucky that your wife supports you. Yeah, but it didn't start that way. If you have the same goal and you both start educating yourselves, then the result is going to be the same, where you're going to have a stronger partner and you're just tackle everything together.
And to add on that, it's very important not to mess your personal life with your business life. You always have to keep them separate. And as a husband or a wife, you have to support each other. So if one is feeling down, you can be feeling down also. You have to uplift the other person, because nobody would lift him up or her up aside from you.
Yeah.
So when he's feeling down, still give that support as a wife, but also kind of like knock him a little and like, hey, that's enough. You have to keep moving forward, because you can't be like feeling down all day. We have to go moving forward.
I was just going to ask you guys. So I think backing up, I wanted to talk a little bit more, especially because usually in a dynamic, there is willing partner, and then there's a reluctant partner, usually in the beginning, until the shared vision comes together. And it sounds like in this instance, Mauricio, you knew about what real estate could do, maybe not so much on the commercial until you started getting involved in podcasts and everything. But Princess, can you talk a little bit more about things that couples can do for someone like you who had the same type of like reluctancy at the very beginning to try to move in that direction towards working on a shared vision? So now I'm trying to back up even further to the point where the light bulb went off, but I'm trying to plant the soil for people so that the plants can grow from that. I'm trying to figure out like what type of mindset you were in to allow that light bulb to go off.
Yeah. So like he mentioned, like back in March, he just went on this event. I really didn't know that it was for multifamily because he was go out and about for the conferences. So I just like, okay, he never really mentioned it to me because he was going with one of his coaches in the real estate residential. So for me, it was like when he came back, he was telling me all of this wonderful things. But prior to that, I wasn't really buying the idea because first, for you to be in this industry, the misconception was you have to be wealthy. So, or you have to be like in a good position to spend money because you're not going to be just like buying. For me before, it was like buying a building. Like, how is that possible? You know, we don't have that much money. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? Where are you going to get the money? Why or how? So for me, the reluctancy was like probably it limits us to believe, or the position that you are in limits us to believe the possibilities of this multifamily. So that's when the reluctancy comes in because you really doesn't have any idea about this industry. So for me to be in that position, for us to be in the same goal, I went ahead and educated myself through the podcast. I was listening through the podcast on my way to work, coming back from work, even like at night, he just like, hey, you know, we have to listen in this podcast. And even if I was so sleepy already from work, I was just like, okay, that's the sacrifice. It's the same thing that you're giving support to your husband, not only on the professional, but also on a personal level. Because once he sees you supporting him, it gives him that fuel on his aspirations. Like, okay, I can do this because my wife is behind me. I can do this because my wife is supporting me.
It's like jet fuel.
Yeah. Yeah. So aside from educating yourself, you also have to immerse yourself on this people, on this new people that you're into. Because if you're just like educating yourself without really putting it into practice, you can't be successful. You have to educate yourself and put it into practice so you'll be able to kind of like be on the same goal with that person.
That's so much wisdom there. So thank you, Princess. And when you guys are having these conversations about these particular deals, and I heard you say earlier, Princess, like it's really important to separate the business and the personal. How do you guys do that? Like, how can other couples are like, wow, you're together all the time, thinking about the same thing all the time. How do you guys separate that out?
It was a challenge, especially in this COVID times, especially that I'm working from home and he's working from home. It has an added pressure on us. And it was a long journey. It wasn't just like a night over that, okay, we're already in sync. No, it's like second marriage and a business profile.
But I think one of the things that has helped us is that we work hard on it. So most of the days we're up at 6 on the computer working. So by the time 4 or 5 p.m. kind of hits, because our property's in the Midwest, so they're 3 hours ahead, that's kind of when we turn it off. And that's when we decide, okay, now let's go out for a little walk, or let's see what we cook for dinner, or let's just play with our daughter, which is our favorite thing to do. But if we didn't feel that during the day that we did enough, I think it would probably be 10 p.m. and we would still be talking about it, huh?
Yeah.
We really hit it hard. So when we start, we do the things that we need to do. And she's amazing at that, keeping track of everything, making sure that everything is done. Was this email sent? Was this person contacted? And I think because of that is that we're able to separate it.
And how do you guys navigate through like the more challenging times when both of you guys are stressed out, whether it be personal or business? How do you back up and how do you navigate your way through those moments?
I think with our daughter, it's easier. Huh?
Yeah, with our daughter with us now, it's pretty much easier. But before it was just like, I think when we were still partners or when it was just the two of us, we kind of like go through the prayer at one time. When we are so down and we don't know what to do, that's when we like, okay, well, let's just lift it up to everything to him, and then let's see how it goes tomorrow, because tomorrow is another day. That's our motto, I think. Tomorrow is another day. Something will happen. Everything happens for a reason. That's our thinking.
We always think in our prayer, we always say thank you for the things that we have, especially in these challenging times. And I think that really helps us a lot. Huh?
Yeah.
I think that that's an amazing tool. Thank you guys for sharing that, because I know that there are people that are going through difficulty right now. And I think that gratitude is one of the most important things that you can have going through this crisis that we're going through right now with COVID-19. I'd want to commend you guys also because you guys have so much stuff going on right now. If I understand right, either you still are working a full-time job, Princess, and you're still working as an agent. And now you also have, with this COVID and stay-at-home shelter-in-place order, you've got a little one around most of the time. So you have all of these things moving at the same time, and yet you are still able to make offers, get something going, and now you guys are heading towards a close on this 41 unit out in the Midwest. Congratulations on that. And I just want to take a minute to recognize that with hard work, you guys can do anything. And you guys are just shining examples of that. So thank you for being that beacon for us.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. We really appreciate it. I mean, there's definitely been a lot of hard work put into this. I mean, prior to this property, with another 25 units under contract, but because of the seller's financing, we couldn't complete it. So it hit us hard because we had put so much work into it. But again, we just had to turn the page and do it all over again. And this ended up being a much better and bigger property. But also, one thing that I wanted to add is we have some great business partners that we've met through networking. And that really helps a lot because there's 3 engineers in our team, including my wife and 2 other friends. So we have plenty of eyes looking at everything. One thing that was very difficult for us was delegating the work, but we trust our friends. And because of that, we're able to take the foot off the pedal a little bit and focus on one task versus before I was trying to do everything myself. So I think that made a big difference.
Yeah, I think for our listeners out there, that is absolutely key. And I think that actually goes all the way back full circle, because not only does it apply in business when you're working to try to do something massive, like buy a 41 unit apartment complex, but it also works that way in marriage. You tackle the things that you are best attuned to, and you work together in a partnership to accomplish your goal, because each of you have different skill sets that you've evolved over time. And when you work on single families and you do that, it's simple enough to where you can do this yourself, or you can put on different hats to solve the problems. But when it becomes one property with 1 door, which is a single family home, or it's one property with 40 doors, then the work gets a little bit harder, right? And it's a lot more to manage as one person. And so kind of the mindset for those listeners who are interested in moving towards either the passive investment side or the active investment side, you're going to need to work with other people in order to go farther, because you got to stick to what your strengths are and work with the right people, because that's how you're going to achieve anything, including, like we just talked about, in marriage.
Yeah. And one thing that I wanted to add is something that we wish we would have known when we got involved. I wish we would have known a year and a half ago is the networking. Is the key. We started doing everything alone, especially self. I was more hands-on at the beginning. So the first 6 months, it was just me. I flew out to a different state to meet brokers on my own. I met the VPs of like 3 or 4 different brokerages and meet lenders, properties, everything on my own. And it got to a point where it's just, like you said, it's different handling 1 door versus when you're trying to buy 30, 40, 50. It just became too much. So we started networking, and by networking, it completely expanded our world, and it just became a lot easier.
Yes, absolutely. Well, congratulations again, you guys.
Congratulations. And Princess, would you consider yourself a people person now?
I think I'm working on that. I haven't really been out that much.
She is.
Because of COVID. But I think once I'm already out, I think it would be very easy, especially with my coach over here. So
I'll have to say this. When we went to that event last year in Texas, it was mainly her networking, not me. Like, I was trying to find a coach. I was trying to find information about the market. She was networking. She came back with a stack of business cards. She had added a ton of people on Facebook, and she was using LinkedIn. I wasn't even using it. So you don't know until you're there and you put everything to practice.
Yep.
That's right. I think that's how we are also connected as well. I think Princess, we were one of those connections from.
I know.
That's
Yep.
right. That's right. After this last event that was virtual, we decided, since we can't travel, obviously due to COVID, I can't jump on a plane and go meet brokers like I used to. So we decided the best thing is to network. So we said that we were going to schedule calls with other people to try to find partners. And I remember it was a Sunday, that the event ended on Saturday. So it was Sunday morning. I had gone out to, I think, showing homes or something residential. And I kept looking at my phone and it says, you have a meeting. And I thought, okay, maybe my wife scheduled a few meetings. So when I came here, I told her, hey, there's something going on my phone about Calendly and about these 30-minute meetings. And she said, yeah, I scheduled meetings with some of the folks at the event. I thought it was 2 or 3. And I said, how many do we have? She said, so far 16. At 16 for how long? And she said, this week. And I said, I have work to do. It ended up being 22 for that week, by the way.
Amazing.
Yeah. And that's how we connected with a lot of folks. And that's how we connected to 2 other partners that we have now in this active deal.
Wow, that's really impressive, you guys. Congratulations. I know that the multifamily community is very close-knit, and just something to keep in mind too. I know there's a lot of folks out there who are just starting to understand more about multifamily real estate. As you can tell, because multifamily real estate is a multi-member type of game, the bigger your network is, the more people are willing to help you. It's weird because in the single family game, I got the impression sometimes, but not really actually thinking about it too much, not too much, but you would think that the more that you work with other people, the more competition you would have. But this industry is so different in the fact that the more that you network with people, the more giving people are. That's one of the things that really inspired me from the beginning, is that networking and getting to know more people. That's what is so alluring about this, is you can work together. Like, you're only limited by how creative you are.
I have a short story about this. You hit the nail on the head as far as competition in real estate and residential, because you don't tell someone, hey, there's somebody that's thinking about selling their home and he lives at this location, because you know that person's going to drive out there and get the listing, right? This is very complex. It takes a lot of work. I remember I showed the package of one of the properties to one of my friends who's an agent. And he asked me, he said, can I see it? And I said, sure, absolutely. He said, don't worry, I'm not going to try to take this. And I said, oh, dude, go ahead, try it. It won't happen. Try it. I mean, you can call, you can do everything. It won't happen, because there's just so much more work. And because of that, just like you said, Derek, people are more willing to help. Everyone I've talked to has always offered to help. Hey, if you need anything, do you have any connections here or there? You should talk to this person. It's pretty incredible.
Yes, absolutely.
That's where the reluctant is coming from, because you as a person coming in with a bird's eye view of not really knowing what's in the business, you're kind of like, as a wife, of course, why are you giving him that information? Okay, like, we spend this amount of money for us to get educated ourselves, and you're just like spreading out the information to a lot of people. And that's where I was like, we were having these conversations back and forth. Aren't we supposed to be not telling him this one, or, kind of like that? But I knew on this business that the more people you have on the team, of course, the pie gets smaller, but the better you can achieve towards a bigger goal. And I think that's when we started connecting with all these people, because at first we're just like thinking, okay, the bigger the chunk of the pie is, the better, because
we get paid more.
Yeah, we get paid more. But little that we know that we need somebody to be able to get us to the finish line. And that's when we started connecting with all these people. That's
right. What happens if the pie that you're getting is not so delicious, right? Because so you have to think about that. When you have more, I mean, up to a certain point, you can't have 20 chefs in the kitchen, but definitely, with one chef in the kitchen, like, you may miss something. You may miss a major thing that you may not see. And so you really need to, like, the more eyes, like you were talking about, Mauricio, the more eyes that you have on it, the better you're going to do together as a group. And just because you have this one property together, there's no competition here, because it just means let's move on to the next one as a team. And so you move on to the next one and get more and more pies with the same team that you've built a relationship with and trust with. And I think that's the beauty of this industry, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because there's that misconception that, hey, you find a great deal and the money will come. And I've heard that. I'm sure you guys have heard it. Find a great deal, the money will come. It doesn't really work that way. You have to go out there and find somebody who has the money. You have to do all the work. But if you have a group of people that you trust, I mean, you can probably do 2 or 3 deals a year, versus if you're doing everything yourself, you'll do one and you'll end up losing your hair probably. It's just so much work. You have to leverage each other.
Absolutely. Okay, well, now this is my favorite part of the show. We're going to get into some of the tactics, right? We want to talk about what it is that you guys are looking for. Let's talk a little bit about your 41 unit and then how you were able to get this one. Let's learn a little bit more about that. And I want to also understand more about what you guys are looking for in the future as well, what your criteria are and how you're going to prioritize your partners that are working with you as limited partners that just come in with cash. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Let's start with your 41 unit. And then after that, if you guys can tell us more about your criteria, what you're looking for, and how you guys take properties down.
Yeah, well, the 41 units, we knew about this one since April.
Mm-hmm.
We knew about this property. I was lucky enough to get the phone number of a direct seller who owns thousands of units. And we tried at first, but the numbers didn't work. And long story short, the property was in escrow. It fell out of escrow. And that's when the seller said, hey, are you still interested? But if we weren't consistent, if we weren't sending emails or messages every couple of weeks or every month, that call or that message never arrived. So we were able to get at a really good price that it met all the numbers that we needed to hit. So once we took that step, we started looking into our friends and who we were going to bring in on this deal, who can be an asset, who is someone that we can work for the next few years. And after that, once we had the team, then we started doing all the work. As far as our criteria for the future, I think we just want to grow in different states. We invested passively in a deal here in LA, which turned out to be a really good deal. And so we want to start working in LA, in the Midwest and the South. And as far as the criteria, it's whatever hits the number that our investors are looking for. We want people to, in 15 years from now, to say, hey, I grew my savings from this much to this much because of you guys, because of that investment. Or I was able to save for our kids' college because of this. I was able to buy a second house because of this. So whatever the numbers make sense.
And I think that's when the connection comes into, because before we were only looking at one market. So because we never knew of other people out there that are trying to do the same. So what COVID did to us was we were able to expand our network, and we were able to expand also our criteria on the market. So with like-minded people that we had connected with, it kind of just like opens up the doors of opening more onto those market. So that's when the Southeast came in, the Midwest came in, and even in here in LA that we never thought that we're going to be investing in. So as far as criteria, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you guys for sharing. That's amazing. And I'll be definitely looking for your guys' next investments and looking closely at this investment that you have right now, this 41 unit. So thank you guys for everything that you do. And we're definitely looking forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Sure.
No, same here. Hopefully we'll have the next in the coming months.
Yeah. And hopefully we can get to those 100 doors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our target. We thought we would stay in the 40 to 60 for a while, but now we're thinking, I think we should, I mean, it's still, if we get a good 60 units, of course, we'll definitely try. But now we're thinking maybe we should go for the 90 to 100 or 120.
Yep.
Excellent.
That's a goal.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to see if Sophie, did you have any questions for?
Yeah, just one last question, maybe before you jump into the last phase of the podcast. You know, as a couple and just being through everything you guys have been through, like panning out again, like what is your big why that holds up everything that you guys do? What is your vision for the future? And just to share with our listeners, like what is your fuel? I know you guys are each other's fuel, but what is that fuel that keeps you guys so motivated, enthusiastic day in, day out to keep going?
And I think we have the same answer. One will be our daughter. Basically, that is our biggest why.
We want to be able to spend time with her. One thing, before we started a family, we talked about that and how are we going to do it? If I work all weekends, when am I going to spend time with her? And same thing for her, 9 to 5 job. How are we going to do this? So I think that was the biggest fuel, having that time and freedom. I mean, I think we've all experienced this when we're driving to work at 4 or 5 p.m. or noon or whatever, and you see someone riding a bike at 2:30 p.m. or playing golf, and you wonder, what do these people do? How is it that I have such a crazy, hectic day? How is it that they're able to go do something like that? Don't they have bills to pay? I mean, so we knew that's what we wanted. So I think at first it was, we wanted that time, we wanted the freedom, we wanted to spend more time with each other, and now it's definitely our daughter.
That's amazing. I wanted to ask us another question before we move on here too, about what your family thinks about you guys going on this journey, right? I know that my family has kind of looked at me in a strange way and looked at me as like a workaholic that just can't takes on way too much work and doesn't know when to stop. And while I think that there's parts of that that's true for me, I think that really where it is finding balance. And, as long as you're on par with your wife and with your significant other and you're living life as you intended to and you want to, then I think everything is okay. But I wanted to ask what your guys' family thought about this when you were first starting out, and now what they think about it now that you're seeing some success.
I think we didn't really make it too public at first because I do residential and I didn't want my clients to think that I'm leaving residential. And I'm lucky that I get a lot of referrals. So that's how we support each other. So we kind of didn't keep it a secret, but just didn't really tell our immediate family what we were doing. And we got their support, of course. Just them knowing that we're working together on this. I think it's easy for relatives to support you if you know that it's the two of you versus I'm doing this and she's opposed, or she's trying to do this and I'm opposed. And I think family wouldn't like that too much. But the fact that we're both on it, I think it's been a great response.
Yeah. And I think the thing that you are in a real estate, Mauricio is in real estate, it kind of, that transition is pretty much easier when it comes to, okay, so he's selling one house, two houses. Okay, now he's selling building. Okay, that's pretty much still a real estate business. So I think the transition was pretty much easy when it comes to thinking of what are they doing.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, that'll definitely help out. That's great. But what about your family, Princess? I know that, I guess, Mauricio has been involved in real estate. Did they have anything to say about, I mean, surely they know about this now, right? That you guys are working on a 41 unit property right now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the transition was pretty much easier for them too. And they were just like there to support. And back in the Philippines, because I grew up in the Philippines, we really didn't know about all of this. For us, when you buy a building, you're pretty much wealthy, pretty much a good position. And for us, like that was like a dream that you cannot be in it, that you cannot reach. And when they heard about this, they was like so excited and, oh, really? Like, how did you do that? How is that possible? And even one of my sisters are actually looking into investing on us in the future. So the business itself is looking good. And also their support is still there.
That's fantastic. So it sounds like a little bit like your guys' vision is starting to spread outside of your guys' little circle with you two and your daughter. It sounds like that is starting to spread outwards, that's beautiful stuff. That's definitely what Sophie and I are trying to do as well. Our family unit is to try to inspire people to take action. And everyone who's listening out there, we're trying to help you understand that there is another way out. Just like Mauricio said, there are people walking around out there who doesn't look like they're paying bills and they're just living life, walking around on the golf course. While that may or may not motivate you, having that life of choice, being able to do what you want to do and not have to go into the office or be glued to the computer screen for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. That's why we do all of this. And all of those folks out there, most people who want to get started in this business, they have more than they think. And so that's really what I'm trying to impress on our listeners, is that you can get started with just an IRA account. You can get started with retirement funds, or if you have cash, like there's a whole lot of different ways to spin this. And all you got to do is get plugged in with the right people like Mauricio and Princess to help show you how it all works. And all it really takes is a phone call or an email, and they'd be more than happy to walk you through how it all works. So
yeah, that's true. Absolutely. We actually rolled our 401k to invest passively on one of the deals because we wanted to do it ourselves. And one thing that I wanted to mention real quick, when I was at the first event, I went outside to grab some coffee and I sat down and next to this lovely lady, her name was Beth. And she started asking me what I was doing. And I said, I'm just here to learn about this concept. How about you? And she said, oh, I've invested in 9 different properties. And I thought, a 9-unit building? She said, no, 9 separate buildings. So she had invested in, I think, close to 600 doors.
Yeah.
But how she did it is she refinanced one of her properties and she invested in 2 or 3 different deals. And then after 4 or 5 years, her money grew significantly. So she invested in more and more, and she was living off of her passive income. So I thought, first of all, I want that. Second of all, how many people do I know that have funds in retirement account? They might be getting close to retirement and they don't know what to do. So if we can help them and guide them and help them grow their wealth, we grow and they grow.
100%. You guys very well said. And I think that inspiration, that spark of saying, oh, there is a different way. That's what we strive so hard to try to achieve, that, to get that light bulb come off. That's really the biggest thing. That's why we're doing all of this for our listeners, is that once you understand what you can do, it's not that far away to start your journey. And yes, it does take time and consistency, because these deals are big and they do require either some cash or some retirement funds. But if you're willing to put in the work for that vision, to work with someone, or to even do this yourself, that's also an option. You can achieve what you're looking for. And this is probably one of the the lowest risk and highest reward ways to achieve that, other than starting your own business or doing something like that. This is really your own business, but real estate is so forgiving in so many ways. And partnering with Mauricio and Princess, those are probably one of the best ways to ensure your money will grow safely over the years and help you get you to your passive income goals and get freedom of choice, earn freedom of choice.
Yes, absolutely. And as you said, it's one of the safest investments. And even now in these crazy COVID times, several friends that I have, and you and I have common friends, Derek, that own 4, 5, 6 different apartment buildings. We hear the same across the board. Collections are even higher now. Some of my friends, they were getting 89% collections. Now they're getting 96, 97% collections since COVID started, because people, the moment they have a paycheck or some type of aid, the first thing they want is to secure roof over their heads and food on the table. So the business is probably, I would say, stronger now.
Yes, there is universal demand for real estate everywhere. People have to have a place to live. They've got to have physical space, and there has to be people there to take care of that for them. So with rentership going up more and more because of the affordability crisis that's going on, I think renters there's going to be more of them. And so it takes skilled landlords like you guys to be able to run properties and provide safe, clean, affordable housing for people to be able to live out their lives. So
yeah, that's the trend. I mean, when you look at all the trends on different websites, different studies, it all shows that rent is going to grow with millennials, with baby boomers. Everything that's out there shows that there will be more renters than homeowners.
Awesome. Yes, 100%. Very cool. Okay, so we're going to head into the final phase of our show right now. It's called the rapid round. We're going to ask you the same 5 questions that we ask all of our guests here.
All right.
So,
Exciting.
we're going to go ahead and do that. And maybe let's switch it up a little bit. Sophie, do you want to read them?
Yeah, sure. So we have 5 questions and you guys can take turns answering. So the first one is, what book has had the biggest impact on you and why?
I think it would be The Miracle Equation.
Oh,
So yeah, because it gives you that affirmation that you can do things, just being consistent with the things that you do every day.
Hal Elrod.
Yeah.
Hal Elrod, Miracle Morning author as well.
Yes.
And how about you, Mauricio?
It would be the same, because we read it. We had our own copy and we both went through it. I actually did the audio version, and I listened to a lot of the stuff that he puts out there. So I would agree that would be the one.
And if people wanted to be just like you guys, what is the first actionable thing that they could do to follow in your footsteps?
They're a tricky question.
I would say the first thing, take action. I mean, start educating yourself. You have to start somewhere. And if someone's listening to this show, that they're already taking that first step and educating themselves, and then just listen to more And depending on where you want to go, whether it's passive or active, try to find the right people to invest with. But education, I guess, is the key.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Princess?
I think for me too, is like setting the goal, because for you to be able to reach that path, you have to set your goal. You can't be just like educating yourself and then just the analysis paralysis that they're telling, the investors, that you're just like educating without taking action. So education plus setting a goal would probably take you there.
Great point. All right. And then what do most people not know about each of you?
We had our Fridays was our date night because of our crazy schedules, and we turned our phones off. I used to tell my clients, I'm sorry, Friday nights, I'm not available, because we couldn't do it during the week. We couldn't do it during weekends. And it was hard. It really was hard. Unless I had canceled appointments and we could jump in the pool on Sundays or things like that, we really couldn't do anything. So our Friday nights were our date nights, and it helped us a lot in many different ways.
Plus also we like to party.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that they don't know. We like to party.
Yeah. I think
hopefully one day we can come party with you guys.
Yeah, I think that's true. A lot of people see us because I portray a professional image, but we like to have fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. And how do you guys like to unwind and restore your creative juices?
One thing that we do is have a wine night. I think not only on once a week, but almost every night because of the stressful week that we had with this property. But yeah, having a wine and just like getting those, trying new cheese, trying new crackers on it, pretty much it.
And sushi. Yeah, sushi plays a big role in our marriage.
You guys are living in the best place for sushi too.
Yeah, there's one place that's just like literally walking distance, and so that's really what we do when we feel that we're tired, we're exhausted, we don't want to cook, we're just dead tired. We just grab some sushi, we sit down, if we have wine, perfect, and we just talk and relax.
That's awesome. We're gonna have to exchange sushi places right after the call. We have a few places that are pretty awesome there too that we like to go with it.
That's cool.
And then you guys have sort of answered this, but is there something special that you and your spouse like to do together?
I think now is mainly our daughter. Before
we love to travel.
Yeah,
travel is pretty much our kind of like
it's our goal. In fact, 3 days ago was our 3rd-year anniversary that we did on one of our favorite trips. We went to Vancouver. It was very spontaneous. We didn't have time. We only had like 3 or 4 days, so we just went for 3 days. And we were looking at the pictures and just remembering everything, and now thinking now we want to go back there with our daughter, go back to the same mountain, the same place.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, hopefully soon, right?
I know.
Yeah, we have quite a few trips that we want to take.
Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, you guys, we're getting to the point right now where we're going to wrap things up, but we thank you guys, both of you, for being on the show. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and definitely have picked up a whole bunch of nuggets of wisdom from you guys, from everything from how to buy real estate in the beginning and how to work together with your spouse and how to get started. So thank you guys so much for everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you guys for putting this together. Like we said, when we started listening to podcasts, there's nothing, we couldn't find anything with a couple. And there was a lot of doubt. We didn't know if
it
you
will
could
work or
not. If you're gonna work, do we know anyone?
Are we gonna have a divorce by the end?
Yeah. Like we had no role models. We didn't talk to anyone. We didn't find anyone. So I think this is great, and congratulations to you guys for putting this together. I really do think it's gonna help a lot of people, just knowing that hey, it can happen, it can be done. Couples can work together, and we're doing it. It's not perfect. It hasn't necessarily been the easiest thing, but we're getting there, and it's making our relationship even stronger.
Yeah. On the contrary, the folks that we've been talking to have been attributing their success because of their spouse. And so it's definitely out there. It's just that it's something that's not broadcast or even asked. There's a lot of podcasts out there where we don't really cover that part of it. But when you stop to think about it, that's what it's all about. Is if you're working towards achieving a goal, but you don't have your spouse with you, like, why are you trying to go towards all this freedom if your spouse isn't along with you to understand like what the challenges are? And then when things go wrong, then you have to go back to the business again, and it makes it much harder. And so I think that this is the hidden side of real estate investing.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much for being on, and we're honored that you could come join us. And for all you listeners out there, thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again next time. This is Derek Clifford
And Sophie Lauren Clifford
signing off. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.